I actually always wanted to die at 27, like, be a part of the 27 club. And then people would read my journals and really know how tortured and dark I was.
Welcome to Collective Guidance with your host, Charla Goodnight. This is a space where we come together to share wisdom, stories, and insights from thought leaders and everyday humans alike. Here, you'll find conversations on spirituality, health, wellness, parenting, and the human experience, all designed to remind you that you are not alone and that we are all connected. Let's step into the guidance we can only find together. Welcome to Collective Guidance with your host, Charla Goodnight. If we are truly honest with ourselves, we all know that we should not be drinking alcohol and putting that neurotoxin in our brain, but yet we still do. I know this is a touchy subject because some of us just like the taste and how alcohol makes us feel. But what if the reason we liked it so much is because we wanted to escape the reality of what is, and it is really a way for us to self-destruct? My guest today is Elissa Rosenthal. Alyssa is a writer and a comedian originally from Long Island, now based in Los Angeles. Before getting sober in 2013, she performed with the Second City and the Groundlings and worked as a stand-up comedian. After getting sober, she spent the next decade working as a licensed substance abuse counselor and a high-profile sober companion, supporting celebrities and billionaires through addiction and mental health crisis. Welcome, Alyssa. I am so grateful to have you here. And we're going to talk about a subject that a lot of people don't want to talk about: sobriety. So tell me your story. What inspired you to get sober, and what did your turning point look like?
Sure. Well, first, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I adore you and I'm so grateful we met. I guess that was 4 or 3 years ago at a Dr. Joe Dispenza event, which just as much as sobriety completely transformed my life. My story is, well, where do I begin? As you shared, I grew up in Long Island and I always felt there was something off with me. I just always felt insecure. I always felt too overly conscious of myself and how I appeared to others. And I was desperate for people to like me. And when I would watch movies, I would romanticize drugs and alcohol. It just looked cool to me. And I had a dysfunctional upbringing and some childhood trauma. And when I, started doing drugs and alcohol in high school, I just felt I could breathe. Finally, I had this ability to bridge the gap between me and you. The opposite of addiction, they say, isn't sobriety, it's connection. And even though I had friends growing up, drugs and alcohol gave me this ability to connect with people, to trauma bond, to really feel part of something greater than myself. And so I started drinking and doing drugs in high school. I actually had a drug overdose when I was 17. And I just always felt like happiness was over there. Oh, well, when I move to Los Angeles and I become a star, then I'll be happy. And I just needed these checked off boxes to keep up appearances so that people could maybe think I was okay, or my life would be worth living if I was famous, or then people would like me. I actually always wanted to die at 27, like, be a part of the 27 club. And then people would read my journals and really know how tortured and dark I was, but I was so full of meaning. I just had this dramatic flair always. And I was never a daily drinker ever. I didn't wake up and get the bottle of Jack Daniels and my hand would shake. That's not my story. I was kind of Jekyll and Hyde. I was either on a juice fast, going to bed at 9:30, working out all day, or I was partying at the clubs, doing cocaine for 2 days. It was very black and white. But really, it was more about I I just didn't have any sort of tools or life skills or emotional stability, and alcohol and drugs were my medicine. So I just needed to feel relief from my thoughts and my emotions. And so I would do something super embarrassing or something really traumatic would happen. And I would go to a meeting and then I just couldn't imagine my life without drugs and alcohol. So then I would start drinking and doing drugs again. I would be like, I'm never drinking or doing drugs again because I would do something so embarrassing or so horrible or wake up where I didn't know I was waking up or just feel just so repulsed by myself. But then I would forget. We have this, even Dr. Joe says, how many times are we going to forget? I would forget the embarrassment and the shame, and I would drink and do drugs again. And then on May 26, 2013, I had been in nutrition school. My comedy career wasn't working out. I would just embarrass myself and I would get super close to opportunities and be in self sabotage. And I had a wild Memorial Day weekend and I looked in the mirror and I just thought, you're never, you're never gonna be better. There's no point of your life. And I wrote a suicide note. I was literally drawing a bath. I had a bottle of Xanax, a bottle of Jack, and I wrote out a suicide note. And I had planned to commit suicide. And I was plagued and tortured by suicidal thoughts since I was very young. And I just opened my email while I was waiting for the bath to fill up, I guess. And I had an email from my nutrition school with Deepak Chopra. And he said, do you want to be a prisoner of your past or a pioneer of your future? Who are you and who do you want to be? And I don't know what seeing that woke up inside of me. In a program, we say it's a moment of clarity, a semi spiritual awakening. And I just had the thought, I just need to get sober for real, not go to a meeting and be afraid of people and think people are losers because they need a meeting to get sober and how pathetic and all these judgments I had. And I stopped the bath and then I stopped drinking. And then, the universe, divine intervention got me to a person that really helped me. And then I did the steps. And I think the steps is a first invitation to rewire your brain. You see all of your character defects, you work on all of your things. And I looked on paper and I thought, oh my God, because I was this perpetual victim. And I saw, oh wow, yes, I was wrong. I was abused. I was hurt. But what am I doing in response to that? And I just started working on myself and my life got better and better and better. And then I never drank again. And that was, 12 and a half years ago.
What was the hardest part of the early days for you?
I think the hardest part was my thoughts. My programming wasn't taught any emotional stability. In program, they say it's a joke, when a normal person gets a flat tire, they call AAA. And when an alcoholic gets a flat tire, they call the suicide hotline. Everything was this weird thing where if something went wrong, and yes, I do believe now we create our own reality, but my mind and my energy was so chaotic that I was creating chaos. And I just had this even though my life got better, I would maybe with hormones or I had PMDD issues, I would just get so dark. And so, even though my life did get better and better, I would struggle still with very dark thoughts, victimized thoughts, oh, I don't have this or I need that or things aren't going to work out, kind of a sense of hopelessness. So it was overcoming that. And thankfully, I did one day at a time, one moment at a time. So challenges that I met, I had this support system. So instead of saying I'm never going to drink again, and then 2 weeks later, drink again because I forget, I had this built-in system of support where it's kind of like my mentor says AA was the first Me Too program. And actually, when I turned 2 years sober, I got Me Too. on my wrist because it was this first time where I thought I'm this crazy, unique freak that's having all these thoughts and anxieties. And I was terminally unique. And when I talked to my sponsor and she said, me too, it was just this huge weight off my shoulders where I am not this weird, tortured freak out of 7 billion people in the world. I'm this relatable person that we're struggling inside. We're just not inside, and we're just not talking about it. I was suffering in silence. So the more I communicated authentically, the more my iceberg melted and I kept healing and healing. So whatever life threw at me, I was able to, one moment at a time, overcome it with the support system I created.
Yeah, is that what keeps you grounded what keeps you grounded when life gets chaotic and triggering now?
Back then, it was that support system. Now, I think we all have layers of transformation. And actually, I went to my birthday dinner on Sunday, and this girl who I've known for 22 years, I turn 40 next week, was like, out of anyone I've ever met, you have transformed, you've changed the most. And we were laughing on how I was like, oh, well, you used to be embarrassed about me. And she was like, well, I used to fall asleep at clubs. And everyone laughed. And it's like, yeah, I would just drink. And then maybe if I wasn't doing Coke, I would fall asleep at a table. And now it's not, I have continuous layers of peeling my onion. I'm not any different than anyone else. And so it was first AA, then I did this thing called the Hoffman process, which really got down to the nitty-gritty of what are the patterns I adopted or rebelled against from my parents. And good, bad, right, or wrong, parents did the best they can, and they learned what they learned and, taught it to me. But I still had these patterns, these negative patterns that were disrupting my life and not giving me the life I wanted. So doing that work. Then I got really, really sick and right before COVID with mold toxicity and Lyme disease. And then it was really, I got down to a darkness I had never been, honestly, because it was like, wow, okay, I'm sober. I thought I worked on this trauma, but it brought up so much childhood things about I was a sick child. I was always in the hospital with various things. And it really made me witness actually what I was thinking and what I was feeling. And when I got into Dr. Joe, it was this whole new rock bottom of I am desperate to not be in this pain. And so now what I do is I really get in tune with what am I thinking and what am I feeling. And if my thoughts and energy can make me sick, they could also make me well, as Dr. Joe says. And so when I'm feeling a little iffy now, I really just I meditate or I listen to Ho'oponopono. I'm
I
sorry, please
love
forgive.
that prayer. Oh my
Thank
god, I
you.
love that prayer so much. I discovered that prayer in 2000 14, and I love that prayer
It
so
really
much.
works.
It
If
works.
yeah, and so I really just do all I can to get grounded, but then also accept my discomfort and surrender because we're not supposed to, if pain is the touchstone of spiritual growth, why am I trying to resist and run from any discomfort or any feeling or thought I don't want to feel? I love when Dr. Joe says, I'm no longer a victim to my programming, but I'm pure loving consciousness observing my old programming. Because if I've been programmed this way and that my subconscious runs 95% of my life, can I give myself a little more compassion and grace for not being quote unquote who I want to be in my future all the time? And so again, I'm 40. I know I'm probably going to have a long life ahead of me and more challenges to face. And no one really wants that. But how am I going to continuously get back to the divinity within me and so much self-love and so much compassion that I can walk through anything and not saying I don't need support and connection is so important, but now it's gone from I need to call someone to look outside of myself, and kind of process to, hey, let me get so in touch with myself, my own best friend, because it's me. I am the creator. I am
Yeah.
the source.
That's beautiful. You talked about having a friendship for 22 years, so she saw it. How have your relationships changed s- since you started your sobriety journey?
Wow. Well, when I first got sober, I had a restraining order against my mom. And me and my dad were super enmeshed. I was very part of when I first tried to get sober, it was like, if you don't get sober, I mean, if you don't lose weight, he was very unhealthy. I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to start doing heroin. I can't live without you. I was just everything was I'm about to jump off a cliff if it doesn't go my way. And so I had an enmeshment with my dad. I was completely disconnected from my mom. And I was an ultimate crazy people pleaser. I was so desperate for people to like me. I would light myself on 1,000 fires to keep anybody warm. I will go. And I also had this weird thing with money too, where I would like pay for everybody doing things because, oh, well, you'll come with me here. If, my dad's love language was money. And so I kind of recreated that where I'd be like, oh, if people like if I wanted sushi and I knew somebody wouldn't, want to spend money on sushi, I'd be like, I'll buy you sushi. But then if you do that, that becomes a pattern. Now every day of my life, I'm buying everyone sushi. And so I had these relationships where I didn't know if people were using me, if I was so codependent, I was holding on for dear life. If somebody was mad at me, I would just crumble into a million pieces. And when I got sober, it was the first time where my sponsor was able to teach me what a healthy relationship is and looking at my character defects and looking at my part and just teaching me how to be a human on life's terms. And even the first 7 years of my sobriety, I put her or my mentor on this huge pedestal. And I always put people as my God. Like I needed people. And so the more work I've done on myself, it's actually the past 2 years where I've really gotten better at boundaries and gotten so in my own worthiness where it's like, no, I did create unhealthy dynamics where I let people talk to me a certain way, treat me a certain way. And at this point, energetically, if you are draining my energy or because I help people for a living. So usually I love helping people so much. It doesn't drain me. It actually gives me life, just like creating and being silly and does as well. But it's just kind of like anybody that, it's kind of like rejection is protection. And so I've noticed in the past 2 years, certain people have left and it's about not being mad or angry, but about looking at what a relationship is and seeing what I'm willing to accept and what I want to give and what I want to take. And so if someone's being mean to me in any way or shaming me in any way, or I think I've just leveled up in very recently, honestly, of not being so desperate. I don't want to chase you anymore. I want people to be a fuck yes about me. I'm not trying so hard and having this energetic kind of uh canyon where I give 110% and anyone else gives 80. I am at the place in my life where I'm okay with myself enough to not engage with something that no longer services me, and that's eons away from what I used to tolerate.
Yeah, that's amazing because you have clarity.
Thank you. Yeah. Even with my mom, I mean, in sobriety, we reconnected and I always was just in a trauma response around her because she was never a safe person to me. But I tried so hard. The Hoffman process really helped me. Things got better and better. And then just this past year, we had a huge disconnect and people could judge me for that, be like, oh, well, it's your mom. But is being abused loving to you? It's and, I don't wanna say abuse in a very dramatic way, but it's like a verbal thing that hurts me, and I am willing to just be love and light, and I sent her flowers, like, 3 months ago, and just be a loving presence, but I can't engage with someone that's gonna consistently try to bring me down or project whatever their I think the term narcissism and all this stuff is being so overused now. Anybody does anything we don't like, they're like, "You're a narcissist, it's
Yeah.
like Oprah.
Yeah,
You're
I
a
agree.
you're a
Hey, I
narcissist."
got news for you.
What?
Everyone is a narcissist,
Yeah.
okay? Like,
You're
everyone has narcissism in them. Maybe not everyone displays it, but it's a trait that everyone has within them, of some way. So, I agree with you. It's totally overplayed.
Yeah,
Um,
and if she has some sort of mental health issue, and I have so much compassion for that. If she were to call me and ask me if she needs something, I would help her. But I'm not gonna put myself in her house where she's gonna be like, "Oh, you're not married, you're not this, like all these things." I'm creating a future, and I don't need somebody projecting negative things on me.
how's your understanding of yourself evolved through sobriety?
I am just I was saying at that dinner where she was saying I changed so much, I ended my whole little spiel with, I'm a miracle, because so many people don't get this and so many people don't want it. It's not like I was drinking every day and I was the worst one of the bunch. I was not. But sobriety is a self diagnosis because if you wake up with a spiritual malady, just feeling gross, like you're not aligned with your consciousness. You don't have to be stealing your grandma's jewelry to pawn it off to get some meth. That's not what addiction I mean, that's part of addiction if that's your story, but that's not my story. And so many people don't ever get sober and help themselves because they think I'm not that bad. But really, it's about, I'm the only person that's going to go to sleep with my head on the pillow and I'm going to be in my own consciousness. So if I'm not right with my actions and my behaviors, then I'm going to need to change. But the reality is abstinence is not recovery. I put the drink and the drugs down. And I was left with me and my thoughts and my energy and my shame and my self hatred and my self pity and my trauma and all these things. So abstinence is just the first step, honestly. And then you're faced with yourself. And if our internal world is a mirror to our outside world, I was not functioning in life. I, I, I have big dreams, I want to, and again, I'm not talking about things on paper and checked off boxes. I wanted to love myself. I wanted to like myself. I wanted to be okay with just who I am in the world of, being able to be of service, being able to transmute all of my pain into liquid gold, of being able to be there for somebody else and walk them through, because, the word passion actually means to suffer. The word compassion means to sit with suffering. And all of the things that I experienced gave me this innate ability and gift to be able to sit with people suffering and truly understand them. And so I don't regret or hate my past at all, not one thing. As Dr. Joe would say, I could look here right now and know I'm 100% grateful for every peak and valley. And so for me, sobriety was the jump off point on a journey, the hero's journey of getting me to actually be okay in this crazy, bizarre world, this human experience we're having.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so beautiful. I
Thank
think
you.
that's really gonna resonate with a lot of people. What spiritual practices and grounding practices helped you most in the beginning?
In the beginning was I mean, 12 and a half years ago is a long time.
Yeah.
Honestly, God to me, when I got sober, was punishing, shameful, this Pez dispenser in the sky that wasn't giving me what I want, and I was pissed. And so when I got sober, I was kind of like God. Like when people would say God in the program, I'd be like, these people are insane. What's wrong with them? Because to me, religion was God and religion was separating. And so, step three, which is about a God of your own understanding, my sponsor was like, well, why don't you create your own God? And so I created a spiritual practice at first of just what kind of God do I want? And it wasn't until I went to the Hoffman process where I met myself 3 years in, I met myself as a spiritual being through meditation of just having this self-compassion, because I think I was just always at war with myself. Like, what is God? What is spirituality? And when I got sober, at first I was a victim. And then when I became grateful, I was like, wait a second, why am I so lucky? And why is there a girl in India being sold into sex slavery? And so I've always been at war inside of this curiosity of either being like, I'm screwed and doomed and punished, or wow, I'm so blessed, why me? And so the journey of spirituality, of not even having any spirituality, I was always like a crazy manifester growing up. I would have these weird things, and I always had this ability to conjure up energy and be the most wild. Like, I won a radio contest, front row seats, 3 years in a row, and they thought I was a witch. And then the last year they didn't give me the concert, the front row tickets. They gave me tickets in like the boonies with a Kipling bag full of swag. And I was so pissed. And I was like, but I won. And then I just remember sitting in this Z100 Jingle Ball concert up there being like, but I won and they gave me these tickets. And I had that Kipling backpack forever. And I just kept thinking that's what kind of fed into my insanity. I was like, I'm a witch. I'm crazy. This identity I had where are these crazy experiences, whether good or bad, or I would just be like, whoa. And then the magic kind of lessened when I moved to LA and I realized I was a big fish in an even bigger pond instead of me being this, I'm the weirdest, craziest talented person and I'm going to walk onto LA. And I was so grandiose. I'm going to walk onto the soil in LA and be a star overnight and be a billionaire. I used to, I left high school in 10th grade and I used to have this book of all of these things. And I used to think because I was so hurt by my school that I would end up buying the land and putting a statue of myself on it. I've never really talked about that, but that's how grandiose my thinking was. And I literally wanted it to say, I didn't graduate high school and look at me. And, that didn't happen. And so, I should tell that more because it's true. I'll say that I'm teaching improv later at a rehab, and I'm gonna share that. I'll be like, I did a podcast earlier, and I remembered how grandiose I really was. So, my relationship with God or source or the divine has just been this uphill trajectory where now I've come to the belief. And what I love about beliefs is you can't take away my belief. I can't take away your belief. And what our beliefs create our own reality, and what's true for me is true for me. And so for me right now, it's like I am everyone. I have the capability inside of me of being the greatest or the worst. And I am all of humanity. I am oneness. And just for whatever reason, I chose to be this character in this 3D headset. But when I am in spirit, when I am in oneness, I am nothing but pure love and I am connected to everything and all things. And so if I am, there's a lot of crazy stuff in the world. And if I am filled with hate and self-righteousness and judgment towards that, I have to zoom out and be like, whatever, for whatever reason, this is their life path and this is the energy of what Earth School is. And I have to zoom out and separate myself because I can get very lost in this 3D reality, especially being a Jewish person, seeing what's gone on, or anti-Semitism. That's the thing I would say I came up against the most in the past 2 years, of just seeing so much hate directed towards me just for a religion I was born into. So that actually deepened my devotion into a religion I never was devoted to whatsoever. And so that's the thing with life experiences. Everything has, the word consequence, just like compassion. Con means with, sequence means following events. So it's like the consequence of me witnessing anti-Semitism has been me like going to Hebrew school and getting closer to Jewish people or Jewish charity events. And so I am this person and this character, but when I really know the truth of who I am, it's I am you. I said this to somebody and they were like, what? I am Hamas. Like, they were like, huh? They were
For
so freaked out
everyone.
by that. And so actually I'm also really into Kabbalah right now, and I went to a
I
David
love
Guia.
Kabbalah. I
Yeah,
love
you were
Kabbalah.
actually one of the first people that, like, showed me the Zohar, and so I went to this David Guillaume event, like, this was one I went to in August, and he was saying how, because he's Jewish, he was saying how his cousin was like, the hostages," and he looked at him and goes, "What about, you fight with your wife? What about the hostage in your house?" Because it all starts with you and what you're doing internally and in your own home, and
Yeah,
that really affected me because it's like, how many people right now are complaining about so many things out of their control happening everywhere, but then doing their own little sneaky stuff in their own house? And it's like, that's the truth.
that is the truth. Peace. If we want peace, we need to have peace within. We need to sit and get extremely comfortable with the person that we are and have peace within and love all aspects of ourselves because we're not perfect. We have the light, of course, and we have the dark, all of us within it. And so the peace within is it all starts within us. How do you maintain your sense of peace on hard days? On hard days, instead of having a drink, how do you maintain peace?
Say, in full transparency, again, just because I don't drink or I do all this spiritual stuff like Dr. Joe David Guillaume, I'm like, oh, I'm so evolved. That's not, I mean, I do all that, but the reality is that I still disassociate. I could binge watch TV. I could grab, a piece of cake over something. And so or I could mindlessly scroll. You know what? Amazon, the real, I could just be lost in that for 2 hours if I'm not willing to take a solution. I could still disassociate with different behaviors that doesn't have to be as dramatic as alcohol, right? But if I want to practice tools, if I'm feeling off, which I was, I think a week ago, I ran a magnesium calming bath. I listened to Ho'oponopono for the whole entire day, or Neville Goddard. I put my hand over my heart and do the Ho'oponopono prayer. I just listen to frequencies to calm my nervous system. I breathe. And so uh if I'm ever in that state, I do help myself, or I can even not even be conscious that I'm in that state because it's not so intense that I need to help myself. And so I could just, oh, I'm going to get some dopamine by buying a dress on Real. Wow, that was a $2,000 dress and I got it for $100. Yay. Like, I'm going to get my fix. Ooh, and so it's like, again, I'm not this perfect, like, oh, I've really enlightened the Buddha in me, or like BFF alive, It's not like that. It's on a daily, moment by moment basis, one day at a time. I can't say I'm going to Rome next week. I can't tell you for 100% I'm not going to drink there, even though I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, it's such a one day at a time thing. And like, we have no idea what life is going to throw us, but sobriety gave me this opportunity to live and handle life's on life's terms. Because when I first got sober, I had a reservation. I was like, well, yeah, this is cool, but when my dad dies, I'm going to be just drugged out. Somebody's going to have to put me in him, or my dog. I'm obsessed with my dog. Oh my God, if that happens, I'm gonna need to go to a mental institution. Like, I do not want to have crazy painful experiences, or I'm still open to kids or whatever. Like, I know life is going to have some topsy-turvy things because that's the contrast of what we need experience. The sweet isn't as sweet without the sour. And so I can't make any promises to you right now of how I'm going to react in a year from now. But what I can say is right now, today, I am connected to something greater than myself that makes me want to not self destruct or be in self sabotage today, right now. So I will try one moment at a time to practice certain things that I know that could soothe me in a healthier way.
Yeah, I love that. That's so beautiful. It is a one day at a time. I've heard that numerous times from people. So, how do you integrate joy, play, and creativity into a sober life?
I think people think sobriety is a death sentence when they first get sober. They'll slap again. It's oh my god, how am I going to be on a boat in Santorini without my champagne? Like people just have this fantasy and idea of what sobriety is, and I'm going to tell you that I have laughed more in sobriety. A, I teach improv at rehabs, but B, I'm now just more calm and grounded being silly. I actually told this wild story at dinner, at my birthday dinner, and everyone was laughing and crying because it's so ridiculous. And it was this dark story, but that's what's cool about I'm actually performing on third tomorrow in a big show and impersonating Christina Aguilera with some peeps. And so for me, I used to be a comedian. So maybe for me, I'm more in tune with my inner child and being silly and that doesn't embarrass me. But it's incredible to witness people that come into their first day of sobriety and then I make them do improv and then they shift their energy and they realize wow, okay, I could shift my energy and how healing laughter is. There's enough data to show how healing laughter really is. And so for me, and I'm going to bring in another person, Bashar. Bashar always
Bashar.
talks about following your bliss and what excites you. And for me, I love being silly. I love writing and creating and I love eating. I love food. I love restaurants. I love people watching. I love traveling. And so I love creating, I love helping people. So whatever I love, whatever gives me a sense of joy, I'm going to follow that. I have never been skiing. Maybe this person I'm helping loves skiing. They love skiing. You go skiing. I am a neurotic Jewish lady and I'm going to think I'm going to break my legs and it doesn't excite me. So I'm not going to follow that.
Right.
And so, whatever we're all these individuals here on planet Earth of what you get that feeling. When you get that feeling of connection and a little bit of joy, follow that. I don't, I'm not going to ski or run or go in a shark tank in the deep sea, but you going to Rome and going to a spa, that's joy for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is so awesome. It's like
Thank
finding what joy works for you. And
Yeah.
the improv, wow, what an incredible experience that must be to bring out the kid in people that are in recovery.
Love it because most of the time they're resistant at first. Like, why are we doing this here? Like, I'm supposed to just talk about my trauma all day and go really deep into the darkness of all this terrible things I've done in my addiction. And then I get in there and I say, my only intention with this group is for you to have a reprieve from your negative thinking and be fully present, even if it's for 5 seconds, and just laugh. And I say, is everyone open to that possibility? That's it. And then I asked a guy yesterday who's a repeater, like came back into treatment. He had already completed it, relapse, came back. And I said, out of 100%, how many people shift their energy in this group? And he said 100. Even if you don't want to, you will. And then
I mean, you're doing the work
that's great.
service, yeah, of it. That's amazing. If you could offer one message to someone just starting this path or really wanting to start this path, what would it be?
I would say if somebody is sober curious, you can go to a meeting or get into any of the things. Again, I'm not the person that's like, you need to be sober, you're destroying yourself. Like my friends that aren't sober drink at my birthday dinner. If somebody can drink and be fine and have a good time and not want to kill themselves or hate themselves the next day, by all means, go for it. But if you are feeling a little icky and a little embarrassed and feeling like alcohol or whatever you're doing isn't servicing uh, the person that you want to create, the person you want to be, it's like, who are you and who do you want to be? I would suggest just being as honest as possible with yourself and think about what you want. And is drinking going to help you get there or is it going to push you back? And so this isn't some declaration of, oh, I'm never drinking again, or I have to be in AA or my life is over. It's just like one day at a time. can you be honest with yourself and what is going to get you to who you want to be? And whether it's AA, whether it's smart recovery, whether it's Dharma recovery, whether it's getting into Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe talks about drinking wine all the time.
Yeah, he has no issues with
yeah, this is
alcohol. But
every
it is after you drink, the next day you get up and you still meditate. Like,
yeah.
yeah, you
Yeah,
still
some
got to
people can
meditate.
handle it.
Right.
Some people could handle it. I wasn't. And maybe today I could drink and be totally normal. But for me, today, I'm not willing to take that risk because I've created such a beautiful life with the foundation of sobriety. So I'm not willing to jeopardize that. But yeah, when I got sober at 27, 26, I hated myself and alcohol was this self-destructive thing. So yeah, if you could be a person that drinks once in a while and is totally normal with it, by all means, go for it if you want. But if you are waking up feeling like crap, or what did I say, or you're creating chaos in your life because you were under the influence at certain times, or if you're thinking about what other people are doing, they're drinking this, or you're drinking a little fast, or you're having like some obsessive thoughts about it, or always reaching outside of yourself to fix something internally going on, then I would be curious about that. And sobriety is simply an invitation to get you to know yourself more.
Mm. An invitation to know yourself more. Alyssa, thank you so much for coming on today, giving us the invitation to know ourselves more, giving us your wisdom of experience that you have had with this journey. You have given us so much great information, different spiritual leaders that you have followed to keep you grounded and keep you on track. And I'm just immensely grateful that you um, shared with us. So, if you guys like this episode, please hit the like button. You can also subscribe, leave a comment. If you would like to follow Alyssa, you can definitely do so. How can they do that, Alyssa?
I do have a website, elissahelps.com, and that's ELISSA helps.com. So if you're curious and want to know about anything, you can message me on there.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. So if you guys like this episode, please hit the like button, leave a comment, and follow us on Instagram, Collective Guidance Podcast or Collective Guidance. And then you can also message us on our website, collectiveguidance.com. Thank you so much. And we hope that you guys have a fabulous day.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today on Collective Guidance. I hope you feel lighter, more inspired, and deeply connected to your own path. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Collective Guidance or our website, collectiveguidance.com. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, may you walk with clarity, courage, joy, and love.